Hey, it's Jake Willens here, your writing and wellness guy. Check out my upcoming book, Practice Well to Write Well, which is a comprehensive and easy-to-use guide for middle school and high school students and teachers who want to either become better writers or educators on writing. Today I'm going to talk about how to write a cogent thesis statement that pops and has a bam. The thesis statement is an argumentable, debatable sentence that answers a central essay question. You want to think about getting away from the what, getting away from just telling what's going on in the story, and into the why, into the analysis. The thesis is the basis of your whole paper, so you want to be coming back to it constantly. And that's why it's really important to word it well and make sure it's cogent. The thesis usually comes at the end of the intro paragraph for essays, though it can vary. I've read great stories in magazines where the author builds up to the thesis and ends with a bang. Other times, if you're not writing an intro, it may come like a first sentence, almost like a topic sentence, where you just start off with the thesis. So you have to be open and flexible to what your teacher wants and the expectations of the assignment. If you scroll down, you can see you have some choice and flexibility. Really follow the guidelines that your teacher gives you. This is no one prescribed, your thesis has to be here or it has to be this way. All of these videos and book suggestions are mere guidelines, and you have to kind of give it your own spice and flavor. Your thesis, you want it to be a debatable argument. It generally would not include the subtopics that you're going to cover in your paper, though it can. Kind of have to go on what your teacher or the expectations of the assignment are. For instance, if I said the United States should abolish the death penalty, it's a clear argument. Doesn't list all the subtopics I'm going to cover in the paper. But if I said the United States should abolish the death penalty because it is ineffective, expensive, and immoral, there you can see the three areas that will be covered. So there the subtopics are listed. If I said the U.S. needs comprehensive immigration reform, comprehensive reform, that does not list all the reasons why. If I said the U.S. needs comprehensive immigration reform to allow immigrants to come out of the shadows, to allow more refugees in, and to allow opportunities for hardworking children, you can see the three areas I will focus on. Again, consult your teacher what his or her preference is, whether to list the subtopics or keep it more general and cover those in topic sentences or subtopics. The wording, you want to use strong, dynamic language. You want to use action verbs in the active voice and present tense. You really want it to pop, not too many linking verbs. For instance, if I said Crooks was treated badly in Steinbeck's Of Mice and Men, not worded very well. It's past tense, it's passive voice, he's being treated. And you could do better than the verb to treat. So if I said in his novel Of Mice and Men, Steinbeck illustrates the horrific effects of racism and loneliness as they alienate, ostracize, and torment crooks, there we have active voice, we have present tense, and we have strong verbs. By the way, active voice is people doing things and not having them done to them. If I said courage was shown by Atticus in To Kill a Mockingbird, not very well, kind of boring, right? It's a plot statement, it's passive voice, it's a linking verb, and shown you can do better. But if I said Atticus acts courageously by defending an African-American man in a racist time in the South, there it's clear, it's efficient, and it's in the active voice. That's what you want for your thesis. If I said, remember, just like with wording and with subtopics, you also want to get the right level of specificity. If you're writing a one-paragraph essay in class, you can't have a really broad thesis that's going to be unwieldy and impossible to support or prove. Similarly, if you're writing a major research paper and you make your thesis really narrow and defined and specific, it's going to be really difficult to break down. So you have to find the right level of specificity within the structure of the assignment. For instance, if I said the Denver Broncos have the best pass rushing defense, that's going to be hard to break down into multiple areas. It's pretty narrow and defined for one paragraph. If I said the Denver Broncos play football, which is a good sport, that's pretty general. That's going to be hard to really, it's a little bit unwieldy. But if I said the Denver Broncos are the best team in football because of their defense, now I can break it into types of defense, pass defense, rush defense. I can say their defense allows their offense to thrive because it gives them more time on the field. and I can move forward, and that might be a good level of middle ground specificity. Generally, your thesis does not need to include the title or author because you've probably mentioned it already in the intro. But if you haven't, or if you're just writing one paragraph and you start with your thesis, then you want to have the author and title of the work. For instance, if I said in To Kill a Mockingbird, Harper Lee shows empathy as the most important quality in moral courage. That would be if I hadn't already introduced the author or title. But if I had, I might just say throughout the novel, one could detect that empathy drives moral courage. There, I've already mentioned the title and author, I don't need it. So to sum up, a strong thesis, it's argumentative and debatable, it's not a plot statement, it gets into the why and away from the what. It's clearly and cogently worded and it has the right level of specificity. Now let's look at some more examples from literature of weaker or stronger theses. For instance, in Mice and Men, if I just said George and Lenny are two migrant workers who have a dream, that's pretty boring, that's what the book's about. You can't argue that. That's a plot statement. But if I said, this might be a little better, George and Lenny try diligently and make sacrifices to achieve their dream. Still hard to argue against, maybe a little better. But if I said in his novel Mice and Men, through his main characters George and Lenny, Steinbeck illustrates having hopes and dreams enhances and is vital to the human experience, now I have a juicy argument. Now I have an analysis-based paper. If I said the boys in William Golding's Lord of the Flies turn savage and lose ability, that's just kind of a plot summary of the book. You can't argue that. It's pretty boring. It's what happens. But if I said fear eviscerates order and transforms the boys into savages, it's the driving force. Now I'm arguing why. Now I'm doing an analysis about what causes the effect. So it's a much better thesis. If I said in S.E. Hinton's The Outsiders, Ponyboy is a greaser who starts to question the fighting between the groups, that's kind of a plot summary. Not very good. That's the what. If I said in Hinton's The Outsiders, Ponyboy grows and matures by realizing he must stay true to himself and put an end to the fighting, he wants to help others as he evolves and finds a better path, that's a much better analysis that I'm going to be able to argue the why. If I said in George Orwell's Animal Farms, the pigs take over and become corrupt, can't argue that. That happens. It's a fact. If I said by having them take over and become corrupt, Orwell is showing that power corrupts and communism is doomed to fail, now I have a juicy argument. That's a good thesis. If I said in Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird, Atticus is a father who teaches Jem and Scout what courage is, that's pretty what-based, and there's a linking verb. If I said Atticus emphasizes that true courage is the ability to have empathy and fight moral battles for what you believe in, that's a better thesis. You can see the difference there. In Arthur Miller's play The Crucible, Salem turns chaotic and crazy. It's the Salem witch trials. We know that happens. It's a plot statement. If I say fear and groupthink rip apart sanity and order, all of a sudden I'm getting into the why, and I'm using strong verbs. By the way, notice there I did cover the subtopics that will come up. Weak. In William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, they're two lovers from families who hate each other. Everybody kind of knows that. That's what the play's about. If I said Shakespeare's implying that even true love can't overcome fate and destiny, then we have a good argument, okay? In Knowles is a Separate Piece, Jean and Finney are two best friends during World War II. That's just kind of on the back of the book. If I said Jean, because he does not deal with his inner demons or his dark side, he ends up lashing out and the darker nature comes out, now we have an analysis-based thesis. General topics. Public schools in the US are not doing well enough for their students and could do better. Pretty hard to argue against that they can't make improvements. It's not awful, but it's a little bit kind of duh. The next one, it's broken and it needs to attract better teachers, teach 21st century skills, and excite lifelong learners or not test takers. This is getting into the how and why to fix it. If I said Jay-Z, Common, Drake, and Chance the Rapper are influential, pretty hard to argue against that. If I said they are the best and most influential artists, now I have an argument. If I said teenage years can be hard, pretty bland thesis. If I said they are the hardest years because of changes in the adolescent brain, now it's a little bit more of an analysis-based, interesting thesis. Yoga is the best form of exercise, or yoga is getting more popular. That's a fact. Yoga is the best form of exercise for what our society needs. Now you have a good argument. By the way, shout out to yoga. It's amazing. Tennis is a challenging sport. Kind of boring. Tennis is the most challenging sport due to its physical, mental, and emotional demands. A little better. By the way, shout out to tennis too. Incredible sport. My man Rafael Nadal is my sporting idol. If I said college athletes put in a lot of time and effort, pretty basic. If I said they deserve to be paid, then we have a nice argument. If I said a lot of immigrants want to come to the US, that's a fact. If I said we need to accept more immigrants and refugees to offer them safety, freedom, and a better life, now I have an argument that you could debate against. If I said the Affordable Care Act was passed by Obama, pretty boring, that's a fact. If I said we need to keep it because we deserve better health care and no one should be denied health care based on a pre-existing condition, now we have an argument. So I hope you found this interesting for how to write a good thesis. Remember, the thesis is a debatable argument. It gets into the why, away from the what. It answers a central essay question. You're constantly drawing your evidence back to your thesis, and you want to word it in a dynamic way that pops. You also want to find the right level of specificity and consult your teacher for his or her preference. Yeah, thesis. Remember, keep calm and grapple on.